The Halloween movie without Michael Myers goes even darker than the original. Good morning. Welcome back. Etep right here with you. Welcome to the 52 new subscribers we've gained over the past couple weeks here. Welcome. You guys are enjoying the horror content. You guys are enjoying hearing me talk about the Halloween franchise. We're not only going to talk about Halloween, but I do have some articles pertaining to the franchise, which we'll cover here. On Collider.com, the Halloween movie without Michael Myers goes even darker than the original. And of course, we're talking about Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. We'll go through a little bit of this article. I want to talk about these bullet points right here. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch deviates from the Michael Myers story and is often criticized, but offers a unique and entertaining science fiction horror story with fascinating characters, great music, and impressive special effects. We can talk about that. We don't even really need to look into the article very much, but we can talk about this right here. Yeah, no Michael Myers in this one, which, seeing it for the first time, I wondered what the hell happened, why the titular character wasn't in the movie. There was no Laurie Strode, there's no Dr. Loomis.
Where is everybody? Where is everybody?
We have Dan Chalice in this one, Dr. Dan Chalice, Tom Atkins' character. We have Stacy Nelkin. You know, her dad gets killed in the beginning of the movie. He's who we see running here. And he gets killed by these mysterious goons who work for Dan O'Herlihy's character of Connell Cochran, who owns Silver Shamrock Novelties. Now, the anthology idea of this franchise was spearheaded by Carpenter and Hill. After the first one, they wanted to go to that. Part 2, they had to make as a concession before they could branch into their anthology portion of the franchise, which did not go well. This film was not received well. And it took me a couple viewings to really learn to appreciate this one. The first time I watched it as a teenager, I wasn't really that into it. I was like, well, where's Michael Myers? You know, I think this was probably before Curse of Michael Myers came out. So the first one I saw was part 4 at, 8 years old. Then I went back with my mom and watched 1 and 2. And I was like, okay, so where's part 3? And she's like, well, part 3 isn't attached to the rest of the franchise. It's kind of an offshoot story. I'm like, what? Not, you know. So we watched it, and I was like, I didn't really like it. I mean, I thought there were some cool aspects, but I didn't really like it because it wasn't Halloween. Then, you know, I watched part 5 again, and it's like, this is boring, you know. So I go back and I watch this one again. And I'd already seen Night of the Creeps, so I recognized Tom Atkins, who I liked his character in Night of the Creeps. You know, that kind of hard-boiled veteran detective. I gathered an appreciation for this. My son is a huge fan of this. He loves it. He's 8 years old. Loves this. He's got shirts, hats, posters in his room. He loves this one. You know, I remember, was it last year? I think he was 7? On the lead up to Halloween, we watched this movie like 3 days in a row. I'm like, I don't mind. You know, I really don't. So we'll take a little look through the article here. A few of the bullet points.
Let's take a look-see.
Franchise horror filmmaking became a surefire way to churn out a hit in the late 70s and through the 80s. Throw a bunch of teens into a campsite or a suburb and let an iconic villain hack them to pieces. You're making at least $10 million at the box office. John Carpenter gave way to this trend with his 1978 classic Halloween, which popularized the genre and remains one of the most influential acclaimed horror films ever made. No argument there. Halloween introduced us to Michael Myers a few years before Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger were on the scene. Myers' uncanny mask, the William Shatner mask, handy kitchen knife, and relentlessly inhuman nature made for a chilling, instantly iconic character. As each of these big 3 of the slasher genre got sequel after sequel, it makes sense that the one movie in the Halloween franchise that has nothing to do with the Myers story is the one often treated like a punching bag among critics and audiences. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is a Halloween film with no slashing, no Jamie Lee Curtis, and no Michael Myers. Instead, the film follows an alcoholic and weirdly horny doctor, played by Tom Atkins, investigating a conspiracy involving magical Halloween masks and a mysterious shadowy corporation. This may sound ridiculous, well, because it is. So, yeah. You have Dan O'Herlihy running Silver Shamrock Toys in the town of Santa Mira, California. And Tom Atkins and Stacy Nelkin end up going there to find out what happened to Stacy Nelkin's dad. They pose as, you know, a couple and get a tour of the factory. We have a unsuspecting family. Buddy Cupford, the top salesman for Silver Shamrock in his district, and his family are brought in for a, you know, specially guided tour of the factory, which they go on with Atkins and Nelson. And they end up getting locked in a room. Little Buddy puts on the mask and is eviscerated when the commercial starts to play, activates the little Silver Shamrock badge in the back, which contains, get this, a piece of Stonehenge, which they stole because we find out Connell Cochran is a warlock, and he is huge on the the tradition of sacrificing children for Samhain. So yeah, that is part of the movie, and it is fantastic. You have these robots that wear gray suits. We just call them the gray suits, who are his foot soldiers, and Dick Warlock, who played the Shape in part 2, plays one of these. It is a fantastic movie. Like I said, I urge you, if you have not seen this, to watch it. And yeah, this is dark because nowhere in the Halloween franchise does Michael Myers kill children. Nowhere does he kill children. Not even Jason Voorhees does that. There was that hint that he was going to in part 6, but that was not to be. But let's go back to Halloween now. Connell Cochran just indiscriminately is like, I'm going to wipe out as many kids as I can with these masks in this commercial on Halloween night. And he tries to off Tom Atkins that way. It is a great movie. I'm not going to go through the entire plot because I will review this movie for you guys. I enjoy it. I might even have my son sit in on part of the review with me so he can talk about it. Because like I said, he owns a ton of merch from this movie that I've bought him because he likes it so much. Beanies, ball caps, t-shirts, posters in his bedroom. You know, original artwork I've got him. So yeah, this is a great movie. It really is. Yes, if you took the name Halloween out of it and just called this movie Season of the Witch, it would have been a fantastic sci-fi horror movie on its own. I really think that the hatred for this came from the fact that there was no Michael Myers outside of that scene where Dr. Chalice is sitting in the bar and they play the commercial for the original Halloween.
The Immortal Classic, followed by the big giveaway at 9.
On the television. But, I mean, and I know there's some, well, he's a philanderer. I think he was split up from his wife in this. And, I mean, even if he wasn't, could you really blame him? He's kind of a nagging cow. No, I'm just kidding. But, no, hopefully Dr. Dan Chalice's kid survived. But that is some of the issues that these people have with Halloween 3, is just the fact that it's not connected. And this came out 41 years ago. October 22nd, 1982. Tommy Lee Wallace, who was a production designer on part 1, directed it. Like I said, it stars Tom Atkins, Stacey Nelkin, Dan O'Herlihy, Michael Curry, Ralph Straight, and Jadine Barbour, who I believe maybe played Mrs. Gutman, who was the other sales associate that got zapped by the mask in her hotel room in one of the most gruesome scenes in the movie. And there's quite a few gruesome deaths in this movie, which it was really cool. Not to mention when little Buddy Cupford gets zapped by the mask as his parents watch on in horror and his head turns to snakes and bugs. That's peak right there. Like I said, you've never really seen a movie in this vein that just went after kids. So yeah, maybe, I mean, the argument could be made for Poltergeist, but it was nowhere near as violent as this was.
So much more violent.
Halloween was meant to be an anthology series. Carpenter's 78 classic was such a smash hit, it was demanded they finalize the Michael Myers story.
They are explicitly demanding it.
Halloween 2 is a direct extension of the original film, picking up a mere minutes after Myers miraculously survives 6 gunshots and a fall off a balcony. 6 times! The sequel, directed by Rick Rosenthal, who oddly came back to do Resurrection, further established Myers as a legendary figure despite the intent being for the film to conclusively end his story. This proved more difficult than expected when fans and critics were caught off guard by an admittedly ridiculous science fiction story instead of a continuation of the slasher series that was expected. Yeah. And like I said, I talked about Halloween 4, how they brought Myers back in that. He's been in a coma since the fire. He had fire coming out of his eyes in part 2. I didn't care. I loved part 4 unapologetically. Still do. My review is available. You can watch that. Halloween 3, fantastic sci-fi horror movie. Great cast, atmosphere, music. Everything was good about this movie. It really was. So if you haven't seen it, I suggest you check it out. And if you have seen it, if you are a fan, if you aren't a fan, let me know in the comments below. Sound off. And that's it, gang. That's what I got for you on Halloween 3. Until we do a review of this one, that'll be it for Halloween 3 for right now. But, like I said, if you're not subscribed, ding the bell. Hit the button. It's free. It always will be. If you are a subscriber, welcome. Channel members, welcome. You can join. All the information's on the page, folks. I'm Etep from The Place to Be Reviews. I've been here with all these. If I don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow, and I will catch you on the next one. And remember, don't put on any silver shamrock mask and listen to the commercial. Just a kidding.